Ooh. Baby, do you know what it's worth? How's everyone doing today? Helium mining blows. We all knew that already. Come on. Good morning and welcome everybody to the Crypto Mining Show, your one-stop shop for all cryptocurrency news from the perspective of a cryptocurrency miner. I go by Blind Run on the internet and Matthew in real life. Today we are going to be talking about the Ethereum merge. It looks like we have confirmation that Ropsten will in fact merge on Wednesday. We have a new bill from Senator Loomis surrounding cryptocurrency. And it's not all bad news. Crypto mining looks to be pretty favorably presented within it. Then, of course, we have some more mining news surrounding basically miners and their liquidation of cryptocurrency, which is continuing to happen. And the output is down as well due to Texas heat, which I can totally relate to. We'll get into all of that and more, including questions and answers at the end of the show, right after a word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Crypto.com. Crypto.com is my go-to centralized exchange for liquidating my crypto assets. With their Crypto.com Visa debit card, I can load up my mined Ethereum to pay for power and other operating costs quickly while earning up to 8% cash back. In addition to the Visa debit card, there are additional fiat options including wire transfers to easily receive your profits. Crypto.com also offers additional services including trading and even staking to earn additional revenue on your investments. Join 10 million plus users buying and selling 100 plus cryptocurrencies at true cost by using my affiliate link in the description for a $25 funding bonus. Or enter referral code SOAT at sign up for the same bonus. Remember, cryptocurrency investment comes with significant risks, so do your own research. Welcome back, everybody. So first things first, Argo's May Bitcoin output drops 25% from April amid teething problems at Texas facility. Let's see what it is at the Texas facility. For me personally, it's not only power, but also heat, and it's been absolutely insane. So, Argo said the decline also reflected an increase in mining difficulty on the Bitcoin network. So we also have an increase of difficulty, presumably, even though here recently, I think we had a decrease, but that was probably in, let's see, June just started. I feel like it was in April that we had the decrease. Let's see what they said though. Argo Blockchain, the only London Stock Exchange listed crypto miner, said Bitcoin production has dropped 25% from April as its new Helios facility in Texas experienced unplanned downtime and mining difficulty increased on Bitcoin network. Unplanned downtime. They're like, yo, bro, it gets hot in Texas. The company produced 124 Bitcoin or Bitcoin equivalents in May, compared with 166 the previous month. May saw the start of mining operations at the Helios facility in Dickens County, Texas. While bringing the facility online, the company faced some limited instances of unplanned downtime, it said in an announcement on Tuesday. In addition, high temperatures in the state saw increased energy demand and higher electricity prices. So Argo voluntarily reduced its energy usage. They're curtailing mining what happened to this sentence? Curtailed, reduced its energy usage. They're curtailing mining operations. I think something got mixed up here. What they're saying is they reduced their energy usage to curtail, of course, the energy problems that were going on with the high electricity prices. There we go. Something like that. As you guys saw with my mining facility, there are additional charges they're starting to put out due to the high energy consumption. So that is a big factor. And the high temperatures are a big factor of keeping hash rate at 100%. Argo also attributed the decline to an increase in mining difficulty on the Bitcoin network. Now, that one I'm not too sure I agree with. We can look at it here real quick, but last we had seen we had a difficulty decrease. Oh, but it did start in June. Okay, fair enough. No, April, May. Yeah, right there. Oh, and this is for April. So April, we go back to here and we had an increase in April, an increase in May, and then a decrease in June, at the beginning of June here. So they're correct. That could have affected it for sure. The company's hash rate on Terra Pool produced substantially lower Bitcoin than in previous months, primarily due to short-term probabilistic outcomes. The company continues to explore all options to optimize its hash rate across alternative pools, end quote, Argo added. Argo reported mining revenue for May of just under 3.1 million pounds or euros, pounds, which is 3.89 million US dollars. For April, it reported 5.52 million pounds. ARB shares fell 8.65% as of publication time, trading at 47.5 pence. I would basically presume that, obviously, like I said, part of the problems with spinning up a new facility in Texas is going to be the heat that did hit. It hit a lot earlier in Texas than usual, meaning it did hit in kind of that April-May timeline. Not to the extent that it has hit now, where we are coming into the summer months with June, and it is... I think we've had 2 days in a row of 100 degrees or more, and that's Fahrenheit, which is extremely, hot, and it is causing some issues with my rigs. I have 2 rigs down again today, 2 different rigs than I had down yesterday. So I'm having a ton of fun here, and I'm sure at a larger operation, it gets worse and worse. I'm looking at ways to resolve this. We will be talking about that here in the upcoming week to give you some ideas on my strategies. Last summer, I didn't have this problem because the facility I was in was 5,000 square foot. So 200 amps in 5,000 square foot was not near as big of a problem as 200 amps in 1,500 square foot. We'll also be kind of talking about that and the kind of airflow that's required to accommodate that. So if you're interested, make sure that you're subscribed and have notifications on in the channel, because we'll be getting into it. Mining is taking a toll pretty much everywhere due to the decreased price of Bitcoin, and it is starting to cause basically liquidation of Bitcoin from the miners. It does appear, as far as I can tell, that is also getting put into whale wallets, unfortunately. Usually the Bitcoin mining wallets are the whale wallets during the bull run, and then during the bear market you have the accumulation of outside of miners. But coming from Benzinga Crypto, Bitcoin miners sold $6.3 billion worth of tokens in May to cover costs. So what happened? The crypto bear market has forced a number of miners into selling their coins, according to a report from Bloomberg on Sunday. Coinmetrics data compiled by Compass Mining shows that miners sent 195,663 coins to exchanges in May. These coins would have been worth a cumulative $6.3 billion according to Bloomberg's estimates. Miners may begin to sell hodled Bitcoin into the open market, said Compass Mining in a research note. At the very least, they are feeling the pain after the last major dip in price. Couple this with the downwards difficulty adjustment indicating miners powering off, and it seems miners may be hitting a wall in profitability. Among those miners contemplating selling Bitcoin last month were larger crypto mining firms like Riot Blockchain, Core Scientific, and Marathon Digital Holdings. In an earnings call last month, Core Scientific confirmed that it was lowering its outlook for 2022 and plans to sell some of its 10,000 self-mined Bitcoin. Riot sold nearly half of the Bitcoin mined in April, while Marathon said it was considering selling some Bitcoin holdings to raise $500 million that it requires for growth objectives. So, what do we know so far as the bear market and impacting miners is that they will start to liquidate their Bitcoin, and this is a traditional sign of course, a bear market or a crypto winter. It's nothing surprising if you've been in cryptocurrency for multiple cycles. This is pretty common stuff. Part of the reason he gets forced to do this is because capital starts to dry up, and that is multiple forms of capital, right? Whether they are getting investment through selling stock shares, which obviously have gone down, or they're getting investment through loans by requesting loans from other people outside of cryptocurrency with traditional markets, or whether they are getting loans through basically using their cryptocurrency as collateral. All of that capital is getting reduced. So the only way for mining farms to continue to operate is to sell the Bitcoin that they have mined so that they can cover the costs or continue to meet their growth goals. And as we've talked about before, the biggest way to kind of offset the bear market is to outgrow it. And it gets really tricky because you have this capital problem of nobody wanting to invest capital into cryptocurrency, but you needing at the same time the most amount of capital to continue to grow with the market so that your margins get better. Basically, the more revenue, the less the costs will affect you, right? So it ends up being a very tricky position to be in. And when we are talking about my farm, which I highly recommend taking a look at, it's a much smaller scale, but I can see the same problems where what I think may have been the best thing to do initially would have been to early on during the all-time highs is take out a cash position to be prepared better for growth during the bear market. And that's kind of how I see it from my perspective. We'll be talking more, of course, every month as I go over the budget and what my plans are on how to basically prepare better for the next bull run. Human rights leaders urge Congress to take open-minded views on Bitcoin. This one's fun. Human rights activists have urged Congress to learn about Bitcoin and its use in nations suffering conflict and hyperinflation. A letter detailing the utility of Bitcoin and stablecoins for people facing political repression and economic hardship has been sent to the U.S. Congress by 20 human rights activists. The letter was addressed to the likes of House of Representatives Speaker Nancy Pelosi and both the minority and majority leaders of the Senate, Charles E. Schumer and Mitch McConnell. It outlines personal accounts of how Bitcoin and stablecoins have been used by people in nations suffering conflict, like Ukraine, as well as those bit by hyperinflation, such as Venezuela. Now, that was a big thing. Venezuela was a big thing on the last bull run cycle, and I believe it was Digibyte that got utilized in most cases in Venezuela. Quote, when currency catastrophe struck Cuba, Afghanistan, and Venezuela, Bitcoin gave our compatriots refuge, end quote, the letter states. When crackdowns on civil liberties befall Nigeria, Belarus, and Hong Kong, Bitcoin helped keep the fight against authoritarianism afloat. The thing is if you are talking to a government that is leaning more and more heavily into authoritarian behavior, petitioning them by saying, hey, it helps against authoritarianism is kind of funny. Just a thought. A Ukrainian activist said Bitcoin has directly assisted in fundraising for soldiers in the fight against Russia. Quote, for me, Bitcoin is not just technology. It has literally saved the lives of my friends and many Ukrainians, end quote, Kozlowska said. There we go, maybe. Without it, we would not have been able to raise money so quickly to pay for protective equipment for soldiers in the early days of the Russian invasion. So that is the petition going on. Is Bitcoin doing what it was meant to do? And to a certain extent, I think articles like these do display that Bitcoin is performing the task at which it was originally created for, which is giving power back to the people in situations where the government is no longer able to facilitate the well-being of their population. And so I think this is a net positive at the end of the day, but I will go back to the fact that I think this is a part of what I would refer to as the digital transformation. And it doesn't mean that things get easier. It means that things get more difficult. And I think from the perspective of U.S. citizens, it's extremely important to pay attention to, especially surrounding, of course, the economy and where we sit at with the threat of inflation and so on. I think the next couple of years are going to be very, very telling surrounding cryptocurrency and what it can do for the general public, specifically the individual, and enabling the sovereignty of that individual from a financial perspective. BIS economists contend crypto can't fulfill the role of money, though. So another shot across the bow. As soon as we are like, hey, this is obviously working now as it should be in certain areas, well, they have to come down on it, right? And so it's a push and a pull. The nature of permissionless blockchains necessarily leads to fragmentation of the crypto landscape, according to the central banking group. The banks are not going to like this, guys. So this is kind of, I want to show both sides of it. You kind of have the human rights leaders coming out and saying, hey, this is obviously cryptocurrency is a good thing. It's enabling, individuals to survive certain bad case scenarios, and then boom, you come right back and the banks come out and they're like, no, this is a terrible idea. It's exactly like you would expect it to play out, though. The use of public blockchains results in fragmentation. That means crypto could never be a sustainable means of payment, economists from the Bank of International Settlements said in a report on Tuesday. Fragmentation means that crypto cannot fulfill the social role of money. Fragmentation is the reason that cryptocurrency would function. That is kind of one of the thoughts behind the digital transformation, is you end up with smaller and smaller groups of people that control whatever economy, smaller pieces of the economy, right? The report contended that as transactions per block get close to their limit, the cost of transactions rise, causing users to seek alternative blockchains. This fragmentation means blockchains cannot harness the beneficial network effect associated with traditional money. Ooh, they did not do much research outside of Ethereum, it feels like. While in some cases on certain blockchains, this is true. The fact that you would have essentially higher fees with the more transactions on the network. There are tools in place that you can participate within layer 2 and layer 3 that reduce this as being necessarily a problem, right? Or we could talk about side chains, etc. I do not think that it creates fragmentation because you can build all these on top of a single currency. Money, the report's author wrote, is a coordination device meant to facilitate economic exchange, and that can happen only if there are network effects where the money is continually made more attractive as more people use it. Without interoperability between competing blockchains, cryptocurrencies cannot fulfill that role. That doesn't mean that interoperability is not happening either, though. So as we've seen, obviously there are a ton of projects that are working towards this. Ones like Flux from the proof of work standpoint, where interoperability is a big thing that is taking place within competing blockchains. I don't see any of these arguments as being currently relevant. A majority of these arguments, or these last two that we've covered, seem to have been answered within the past bull run cycle. And I think maybe they're a little bit behind the times. That's kind of to be expected from traditional finance, though. Not a fan of Bitcoin or crypto in general, the BIS, which is an organization that represents the world's major central banks, of course they wouldn't be a fan of crypto in general, has been advancing its own research into central bank digital currencies and recently completed Project Dunbar, in which the central banks of Australia, Malaysia, Singapore, and South Africa found that cross-border CBDC efforts were viable. Of course they want central bank digital currencies. Remember, on this channel, we are pro-cryptocurrency, anti-CBDCs. Reason for that is CBDCs go in the opposite direction of the intended direction of cryptocurrency, which is to put the control even further back into the hands of the banks and the governments. And if you have it on the federal level, it gets even worse because now you've centralized the currency even further from having banks and federal governments to purely having federal governments and agencies controlling said currency. That's about all I have to say on that. We do have more regulation coming into play as well for cryptocurrency, and U.S. senators introduced crypto bill outlining sweeping plan for future rules. Now, this one's not as bad from the mining perspective. We'll go over why, but let's get the rundown. Kristen Gillibrand and Cynthia Lummis release the long-awaited strategy that favors the CFTC as a watchdog and wipes away tax worries from buying things with cryptocurrencies. A wide-reaching bipartisan crypto bill finally emerged Tuesday from the U.S. Senator Cynthia Lummis and Kirsten Gillibrand, who are seeking to extend a comprehensive set of regulations across digital assets in the U.S. and have given industry lobbyists something meaty to debate. Their bill would liberate small-scale purchase of goods and services from the mire of tax implications by making it all tax-free on transactions less than $200. Now, that is awesome. That's a start. Right? But we have large purchase requirements now due to inflation. $200 isn't really that much when you consider the price of groceries now is going to be for a standard family in the U.S. is going to be way more than $200 a week. And then so do you have to go purchase groceries more frequently? How does all that function, playing around with these rules if you're using cryptocurrency? But it's a good start, potentially clearing a path for cryptocurrency that acts more like a currency. And as expected, the legislation would grant new powers and a commanding presence to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. The far-reaching legislation attempts to tackle the most significant questions hanging over digital assets. It would set new federal law for stablecoins, taxes on small-scale payments, and the jurisdiction of regulators, answering the uncertainties that keep the fledgling financial sector from maturing. However, the effort from Lummis and Gillibrand is seen in Washington as a starting point for a dialogue that won't lead anywhere significant before next year. I believe it's supposed to be December of this year is when this was supposed to be or will be expected to be enacted. It joined several previous bills that mostly sought to bite off narrow pieces of the cryptocurrency landscape, such as the recent push for stablecoin rules by Senator Pat Toomey. It even borrows from some of that work. Still, the effort would likely have to split into several pieces in 2023 as it winds through congressional committees in the next session. With Loomis on the second Senate Banking Committee that oversees the Securities and Exchange Commission, and Gillibrand holding a spot on the Agricultural Committee that watches the commodities and the CFTC, the lawmakers are well placed to help shepherd key portions of the legislation. Their so-called Responsible Financial Innovation Act, quote, creates regulatory clarity for agencies charged with supervising digital asset markets, provides a strong, tailored regulatory framework for stablecoins, and integrates digital assets into our existing tax and banking laws, end quote, in the words of Loomis. These are some of the main features of what Gillibrand described as a landmark bill that will provide clarity to both industry and regulators while also maintaining the flexibility to account for the ongoing evolution of digital assets markets. It would define the terrain between crypto securities and commodities, allowing token issuers to know beforehand what they're launching based on the purpose of the asset and the rights of powers it conveys to the consumer. The market envisioned in this bill is dominated by commodities, including most of the big names in crypto, such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, and dozens of other tokens with significant market share that would fall into a definition as ancillary and assets overseen by the CFTC. The lawmakers would give Commodity Futures Trading Commission authority over the spot markets in crypto commodities, as sought by agency chief Rostin Benham. That would carve out a key new power for the federal watchdog that doesn't now have much reach into cash markets. It also gives needed legal clarity in how to handle customer holdings after the recent furor over customers' tokens getting roped in with an exchange's assets in the event the company goes bankrupt. A worry that erupted after Coinbase suggested that it has as possibility in a recent Securities and Exchange Commission filing. This is one that we were interested in. So I don't know what the clarity is there necessarily. It doesn't say what it is. The Biden administration has signaled it wants better custody arrangements in any crypto bills moving through Congress. The Loomis-Gillibrand effort also adopts language from a bill last year from Representative Patrick Henry and others that sought to clarify the meaning of a crypto broker, especially hoping to protect wallet providers, software developers, and others from being snagged by certain tax reporting requirements. This is helpful, obviously, for miners as well. The bill doesn't automatically set up the self-regulatory organization that many in the industry have lobbied for, but it calls for a study from the SEC and CFTC and a proposal for starting one. Crypto operations watched by the CFTC would, under this legislation, have to start paying fees to fund the agency, akin to the model that now supports the SEC. The senators also suggest an industry sandbox in which regulators let crypto firms test new products on a limited scale and duration. In the light of the recent dramatic collapse of Terra UST, one closely examined aspect of the bill will be its move towards 100% reserve asset type and detailed disclosure requirement for all payment stablecoin issuers. There would be a new framework for banks and credit unions to issue stablecoins, but issuers wouldn't have to become depository institutions. The lawmakers insist that existing stablecoin issuers and new entrants into the market have an adequate opportunity to compete with existing banks and credit unions. The bill also requires certain disclosures to the SEC from companies raising funds through digital asset sales. The approach would ensure that market participants and our securities regulatory community receive detailed and accurate disclosures about those digital assets that are widely traded, but in a manner that encourages innovation, said Louis Cohen, co-founder of DLX Law. All right. So, obviously, there's a lot to go over with this bill. I'm going to attack it from only the mining perspective. I do think that there are some positives from the mining perspective that come into play here, specifically as it pertains to the treatment of the actual process of mining. We can see it here. I do have the bill pulled up. Once again, this is a proposal. I have not gone over the entire thing. I've been trying to scan as much as I can. Here is implementing, though, effective IRS guidance. And on number 3 here, we have treatment of digital asset mining and staking as a production activity, in which income is not realized until disposition of the assets produced or received in connection with such production activity, in accordance with the section of 451 of the IRS Code of 1986. This does mean positive things from the mining perspective, primarily because now no longer are we really having to worry about tracking the day of which you get the payout and the price of the payout, but presumably would only have to worry about the tax implications once liquidated. I am not a tax attorney. I'm not a CPA. This is not financial advice, and this is my very brief and albeit very basic knowledge of how this reads to me in particular. Maybe you guys can talk to me about it at the end of the show in questions and answers and educate me a little bit more in case I am misunderstanding that. But overall, that seems like a positive from the mining perspective. The rest of the bill obviously has some things that are concerning, but I don't necessarily even disagree with forcing basically a fully backed stablecoin. I'm not a fan of stablecoins in general, but definitely not of algorithmic stablecoins. I know that there are some that like people are really kind of behind or excited about that are algorithmic, and I get that, and I'm not going to attack anybody in particular, but I just think that once again, when we talk about these subjects, I'm usually of the mindset of if you want to participate within that traditional finance field and you activate that through a centralized exchange or whatever it is, then you adhere to those rules, right? But then within the rules of cryptocurrency, kind of leave us alone, which obviously will never get to be left alone completely. That being said, Ethereum is moving to proof of stake. We will tomorrow experience the first testnet migration. Depending on how that goes from proof of work to proof of stake for Ropsten, it will determine a little bit more of what the timeline will be for Ethereum. Best case in the short term for miners is that whatever is performed there will lead to a diffusing or a delay of the difficulty bomb, thereby driving the profitability of Ethereum back up in the meantime for miners. Will that happen? I don't know. But we do have confirmation that the testnet will be merging on Wednesday via Marius on Twitter, who said now is the time to test your Ethereum dApp on Ropsten. We will go through the transition on Wednesday. Deploy and set up your stuff now to verify that it works before and after the merge and during the transition. You need to run 2 nodes to follow the chain now. Test that. Why do they need to run 2 nodes, and why is that relevant, right? Well, you have to have your execution layer and your consensus layer. Basically, you'll have 2 nodes that have to run to validate everything and so on. This is a reason why the 7-block reorg was not a big deal previously, because you didn't have that execution layer over on there. But now that 7-block reorg would obviously affect pricing and confirmation of blocks, etc. And I think that that portion is still a big point that the devs are ignoring personally. Anyways, cryptocurrency is rough right now. If I was looking at the trends, because if you guys know, I'm a YouTuber, so I have to keep track of this stuff to make sure that I'm making like topics that you guys are interested in so that I have some sort of survivability. This is what my income is based off of. Now, recently on May 8th to May 14th, we had a nice little bump, and we kind of came back. What I've noticed here recently in my own personal stats within YouTube is that we've had a sharp decline in interest in cryptocurrency. What does this spell out? More than likely, it spells out that we are getting close to the bottom of the bear market, right? So that's good. What we're seeing here is essentially a huge decline in the interest in cryptocurrency. As you can see, it's at the lowest levels it's pretty much ever been at. And since, of course, the start of this bull run cycle. So obviously for y'all and for me, what I need to know is what you guys need. The base audience is going to be the most important one. You guys are going to get me through the bear cycle. You're going to hit the membership buttons. You're going to hit the super stickers. You're going to hit the join buttons. You're going to come over to my Twitch channel and watch me play video games. You're going to be supporting this channel. And without y'all, that base audience, we're not going to make it through the bear market. So what I've been doing is asking questions about, what kind of videos are you guys interested in, that sort of thing. I just need you guys to let me know because your interest is what's going to keep this alive. So I'm going to do my best to facilitate answering those questions and addressing the things that are most important to y'all. The good news here, like we've talked about before, is that this is the time for opportunity for all of us. And part of the reason for that is, one, I now have a lot less spam in my inbox. I have a lot less messages in my inbox. If you want to email me, I'm a lot more likely to respond. This goes the same across the entire crypto industry. You want to get in on early projects for developing or something along those lines, you're going to be able to get into those discords and talk to developers. If you're on the NFT space, you're going to be able to talk to artists a lot more better. You're going to be able to coordinate and basically get yourself into a better position for the next bull run. Because as you all know, and as I know, this is cyclical. It's all going to happen again. So the best time to prepare for it happening again is right now. So I want to encourage you guys to stay participating within the industry so that when that next bull run cycle happens, you aren't feeling like you missed out. The time to set yourself up is now. And in addition to that, let me know what is most helpful for you guys, and I will try to facilitate that. Mining profitability for the day. I'm down a couple rigs, like I said. Unfortunately, that does mean that we're down to like 99 bucks for the day. I got 99 bucks. The ETH is 0.054 for a day, projected with 84 ZIL because we are dual mining ZIL. If you want to use my referral code here, you can use the referral code, and that is helpful to me. So there you go. Nothing too exciting. Like I said, 2 rigs down. My Octo miner actually went down surprisingly. And this RX 6000 series rig has gone down a couple times. I think the motherboard's just done. I tried reflashing. It keeps defaulting back to like CSM enabled, and I have no idea why. All the rest of the BIOS settings remain persistent, so it's not defaulting back. I have no idea what the heck's going on. Maybe if I figure it out, I'll let you guys know, but I really don't know. Let's check what to mine. RTX 3090. And that is going to be, I already adjusted everything out, 10 cents a kilowatt hour, 110 on the ZIL hash, 60 on Kapow, ProgPow, and Firo proof of work. It puts Cero in first place at $291 a day in revenue and $212 a day after power. Ethereum is at $253 a day in revenue and $1.76 a day after power at 10 cents a kilowatt hour. Xano's popping up here near the top at $240 a day in revenue, $1.60 a day after power. Ravencoin at $223 a day in revenue and $1.44 a day after power. If we scroll down, Conflux at $207 a day in revenue and $1.28 a day after power, and Firo at $1.97 a day in revenue and $1.23 a day after power. Ergo is at $1.88 a day in revenue and $1.26 a day after power. And then Ethereum Classic's way down here at $1.78 a day in revenue, $1.01 after power, with Rio at $1.76 a day in revenue, $1.14 a day after power, and Flux at $1.73 a day in revenue and $1.04 a day after power. We already took a look at Bitcoin. Difficulty is not really adjusted at all since we talked about it yesterday. It's at 234 exahash a second. If we take a look at Ethereum, We are at 1.08 petahash a second. No changes there, except the difficulty is spiking due to that artificial increase in difficulty, and we can expect it to get much, much worse. So we're already starting to see coins get much closer to profitability, in profitability to Ethereum. And this is going to be, probably the most significant thing to happen in cryptocurrency in a while, especially for GPU mining, and seeing how this all shakes out. The amount of revenue that Ethereum mining is generating is significantly higher than any other coin available. And so as this starts to happen and miners start to move, we'll start to feel the pain. Ethereum Classic is at 25 terahash a second. No change from yesterday. Take a look at Flux. 1.57 mega solutions a second. A little bit up from yesterday, but it's hard to keep track because of the rentals. Ravencoin is at 2.58 terahash a second a day. Or today. There we go. And let's see. We got Ergo. And Ergo is at 14.99 terahash a second. Yeah. Mining pool profits for the last 90 days. F2 pool in first, Ether mine in second, mining pool hub in third. Last 60 days, crazy pool in first, Ether mine in second, F2 pool in third. Last 30 days, crazy pool in first, Ether mine in second, nano pool in third. Last 21 days, crazy pool in first, nano pool in second, F2 pool in third. Last 14 days, ZET in first, nano pool in second, F2 pool in third. For the last 7 days, ZET in first, nano pool in second, F2 pool in third. For the last 3 days, crazy pool in first, F2 pool in second, mining pool hub in third. And for the last day, F2 pool in first, Ether mine in second, and mining pool hub in third. ASIC miner profitability. We have the KD6 dropping a little bit further down to 25.86 a day. The new IB link, of course, is up on Verge, curiously enough, down on Cadena. Antminer L7 at $18 a day, $19 a day. And if we scroll down to the S19 Pro, $7 a day. If you're doing Bitcoin, it's $6 a day. Really, really tight margins on the Bitcoin mining front. Let's get into questions and answers. Be sure to tag at Son of a Tech to get your message noticed. Super chats are never required, always appreciated, and super stickers boost the algorithm. That's what I've been told. So that can help. It's a pretty early ending show today. I know we didn't go over a ton, but I think that we can get some good questions in. Seb Chap says, Jiu-Jitsu video. I'm just a white belt, bro. Raptor Node says, Ask Son of a Tech, let's get scientific on airflow. I want to learn about how to size it properly. All right. There are some really good resources, but the videos haven't been done since last bull run. And they're the ones I'm kind of basing some of this stuff off of. Papa Lip says, Ask Son of a Tech, I had issues with my BIOS re-enabling CSM mode. One thing that worked for me was leaving an HDMI dummy plug in the Mobo HDMI slot. Well, that motherboard doesn't have an HDMI. I guess it has the DVI. Android Man says, Ask Son of a Tech, please can you do an updated video for MetaMask covering what we can do with WETH from Ethermine? It's pretty confusing for the newbies. Keep up the good work. What are you specifically trying to do? The thing about MetaMask is like, there's a ton you can do with it. So like I've done the basic coverage. I've done individual videos on individual tasks within MetaMask. There's just a lot to go in there. Texas Ace says, I finally got R mode stable for 4 days. I had to boost the memory controller voltage by 50 millivolts with R mode. Costs a few extra watts, but worth it. Okay. Michael says, Ask Son of a Tech, is the TTD on Ropsten going to be reached tomorrow for the merge? Tomorrow is confirmed for the merge. They, I don't know how they're handling the TTD. The total terminal difficulty is going to be set last minute, right? Queen of Random says, Ask Tech, I've been mining at 2 miners for 2 months. My daily earnings are always much higher than the mining pool profit site says. So much so that 2 miners would always be in the top 2. Ideas. I don't really necessarily have any ideas on the why it wouldn't report similar to what that was. When I was mining on 2 miners, it was pretty much accurate. Obviously, whenever they're pulling from APIs, it can be behind. And there is, I suppose, a possibility of it not being completely accurate due to the way 2 miners trades the payouts. That's a possibility. Rollins1 says, Ask Tech, can you do a Caspa Hive mining tutorial, please? I can look into that. I'll definitely have it on my list. Dave says, Ask Tech, I'd love to see info on non-mining proof of work that we can use our hash power on. Do you mean like folding at home, etc.? Thanks for the $6.99 super chat, C-Roll. That's what I'm going to call you, C-Roll. I just answered your question. That is on my list of things to do, for sure. Andrew Coburn says, Ask Tech, I am about to be spending $50,000 on GPUs. I am purchasing Octominers as needed for the amount of new GPUs. I have no power cost, but limited to 10 kilowatt power. What is your opinion? What is my opinion on what? Octominers are good. $50,000 is a nice chunk to spend on GPUs. And 10 kilowatts of power is quite low. Aggregarker Visual says, and you're going to spend, well, it depends on which GPUs you're going to buy, because you do have to remember that you're going to spend like $600 to $800 a pop on the Octominers. Aggregarker Visual says, Ask Tech, I printed a custom shroud for the A2000 that works really well. Would you be interested in testing it and doing a video on it? Sure. My P.O. box is on the About tab. The Wolf Mining says, Ask Tech, is Trust Wallet a safe wallet? Is it a cold wallet or a hot wallet? So, I mean, Trust Wallet's going to be the type of wallet you set it up to be. I mean, for the most part, Trust Wallet is like, I think I have it on my mobile. It works well in certain scenarios for certain things that you need to participate within. Cold and hot is really dependent on like if you're connected to the internet all the time, right? And a big part of that for you to understand is that it is on a cell phone, or if it's on a cell phone, it's pretty much hot all the time. But if you were, for example, to generate your seed phrase, get your wallet address, delete the app off of your phone, then at that point it becomes basically kind of like a cold wallet, right? So it's all in the way, like even MetaMask, if you generate the wallet address on MetaMask and then pull it off, like in theory, you can make any of those wallets as long as you can control the keys. It doesn't really matter how you generate the keys, whether that be, on MetaMask or Trust Wallet or whatever it might be. So a great example is, I believe, is this. Like you can typically take a seed phrase from one wallet and recover it on another wallet, right? So, for example, I had Ergo on Yo ROI or Yori or whatever. That wallet wasn't working good, didn't really do what I needed it to do. So I took the seed phrase off of that and I recovered it on Nautilus wallet. Like this isn't like, I guess maybe we do need to do a video that covers this sort of thing so that people have a better understanding. Your wallet is not tied to the application that you're accessing your wallet for at the end of the day. Brandon Domingue says, do you have any helium mining? I have one and it's terrible. It's always been terrible. But mine goes offline a lot. And I'm not in an area where there's enough to really make it worth it. Young Trey Table says, Ask Simon Tech, are you bullish on Flux? I mean, I like that. I don't know. We'll see what they do. I mean, like, I like Flux. Like from a technological perspective, from my perspective as a cloud solutions guy by trade, Flux is the most exciting thing that speaks to me from that perspective. That being said, there's like, it's clearly a technology. I wouldn't like necessarily lump it in with like Bitcoin, right? So I view these things extremely differently. Like, but I think that as far as what Flux has been able to do, they're the furthest along. They have the most potential to have real world impact for Web3. 3 Mil says, Ask Simon Tech, when new GPUs come, 4,000 and 7,000, will the current gen GPUs still be in production, or do they stop it all? How has it been in the past? So how it's been in the past has always been dependent on the demand. Like we saw with what NVIDIA did with the 20 series, is they started releasing, of course, different variants of things like the 2060 to accommodate for, you know, the shortage of supply of the 3000 series. And so it really comes down to demand and what those companies decide. It has gone both ways in the past, right? They typically on the lower end models will continue to manufacture them. I mean, they still continue to manufacture 1660 Supers to this day. So they will probably continue to manufacture 3000 series unless it starts impacting the sale of the 4000 series too much. And that's where things get interesting with this new generation of GPUs. Now, for the 7000 series, for example, I think the 6000 series will be completely phased out by AMD. Reason being is because they're pretty much identical GPUs. However, we could, on the inverse of that, say that, well, since they're pretty much the same and there's a performance increase of the 7000 series, they could keep them in tandem. But for the most part, I think like the memory modules that are moving over, stuff like that, the production lines are probably going to be too close together for them to want to manufacture both. What NVIDIA was doing was partnering with multiple different foundries to produce certain types of chips from different lines. And so you would see like a 2060 being built over here by Samsung or whatever, and a 30 series being built by TSMC. I'm just using this as an example. I don't remember which foundries did which ones off the top of my head, but that allowed them to up the production, which means they have more cards to sell. In the case that we have the bear market, it's not necessarily needed for them to create additional hardware, and they won't need to necessarily do this kind of game of creating two different lines to essentially accommodate for the lack of resources to build all 40 series cards. That being said, the 4000 series may completely be overshadowed by the 3000 series once gamers and miners start realizing the requirements from the ATX 3.0 standard. And that is going to be a big problem, because just like we saw with the upgrade to DDR5 initially, where the pricing of DDR5 was through the roof, these upgrade paths from the 3000 series to the 4000 series is quite poor, right? Unless you're building a completely new system, you're not really going to want to go out and have to upgrade your power supply that's going to cost you $1,000 to then also get a GPU that's going to cost you a couple grand. Just a GPU upgrade, you know, even during a bear market where the demand isn't as high for GPUs, is still potentially going to run you $3,000 to $4,000. And that's not something that necessarily that's not going to drive a ton of people to do those upgrades to the 4000 series. I mean, as we saw yesterday, even the 4060 is having a pretty huge bump in, of course, power consumption. Now, presumably 4060 and below won't require your upgrade to ATX 3.0. So not as bad of a deal there, but you're still going up like 40 watts, right? So the lower level, the type of people that are going to be purchasing those types of GPUs may even need a power supply upgrade as well, because their power supply isn't going to be sufficient. I'm not really sure what's happening with the 4000 series. I don't like it, personally. I don't like it from a mining perspective. I really don't like it from a gaming perspective. I'll probably be leaning for my main rig going like 7900 XT. Mike Wright says, Ask Tech Flux, all my 20 series GPUs on Flux now. Just got another 2080 for $350 yesterday. 55 solutions at 120 watts. Congrats. Let's see. Thanks for the 279 super chat sticker, or super sticker, Seb Chaps. You rock. Dave says, at Tech, regarding other proof of work, any info really, don't even know where to start. What do you mean, other proof of work coins? We go over them every day and what to mine. Greza says, ask Tech, two things. I use a DVI dummy plug, something to do with UEFI and seeing a monitor as required device, and use IP remote power switch to power cycle your miners. Nice. Yeah, you can do the signal on the network in the BIOS settings. It depends on if the BIOS settings get completely reset. Linus says, Ask Tech, I saw Rapid Mining upload a video where he is saying that many ETH hash ASICs won't be able to mine ETC, but there could come a firmware update. So if you are an ASICs manufacturer, I assume you are working on Ethereum Classic firmware updates, or if you're a large mining firm that is pumping out, it has a ton of ETH hash with a bunch of Ethereum ASICs, I would assume they've hired somebody to build a custom firmware. I was just talking to a Kadena miner yesterday, and they are moving to immersion cooling. And the interesting thing that I learned from that was not necessarily anything about Kadena, right? But what I learned is if they have a huge investment in a particular miner, what they were doing is moving to immersion, and then they hired someone to build them a custom firmware to allow them to overclock the Kadena miners. So what I do know is that at a certain point, and they're not massive, like they're not a large Kadena farm, but they are still incentivized to build those custom firmwares. So I would assume that Ethereum farms are much larger and are incentivized to create custom firmware with the threat of the merge. I don't know that for a fact. Maybe their plan is to just take all of it and throw it in a landfill. But I would assume that they would at least attempt to hire someone to build custom firmwares for all of those. Anonymous says, Ask Tech, what is your price per kilowatt hour if you factor in rent into the equation? More than 15 cents a kilowatt hour? Right now, yeah. So it would be like literally probably like 12.6 cents a kilowatt hour right now. Michael says, Ask Tech, have you covered Chia mining? Yes, I have. And I would never cover it again. It is a waste of space. Chung Hang Peng says, Ask Tech, is dual mining ETH and ZIL using a 1660 super option viable? Yeah, because ETH and ZIL are just running ET hash. So the way Ethereum and Zilliqa function when you dual mine it is you're only mining one or the other. Zilliqa only solves blocks on a set schedule. You can see the set schedule. One second. I'll try to pull this up for you. So if you go to my overview, you can see the set schedule, and it will tell you when ZIL is happening. So ZIL is happening in 4 minutes right now. So in 4 minutes, my miners will stop mining Ethereum and they'll mine Zilliqa. Once the Zilliqa block has been solved, it will go back and mine Ethereum. So it's just, you're just mining Ethereum. That's it. Gaming Vid says, as Tech, do you think proof of useful work is useful? I think it's extremely useful. Do I think it's viable would be the question, and that's where I don't know. Meaning, I think that obviously the idea is amazing, and high-powered computing on Web3 is something not solved yet, and that would be one way to solve high-powered computing for Web3. Is it viable? Is it something that will be able to be done is the question. Like, a lot of miners are not running. I mean, a lot of the high power computing that's going into cloud solutions are much beefier, much more expensive graphics cards than the average miner are utilizing to process transactions on the network as it sits. Panzer says, ask Tech, the Fed is a private bank printing money and don't pay income tax for printing this money. Why should crypto miners pay a tax for minting? It's the same case. I am not going to address that sort of tax question. You guys know how I feel. No taxes. Get out of here. But you got to give to Caesar what is Caesar's. 3 Mil says, ask Tech, great work, man. I'll be here with you until the next bull run. Let's do it. Dave says, ask Tech, not coins, things like machine learning. Yeah, that's what I said, like folding it home. Greza says, ask Tech, hi, I don't use Magic Packet Wake on LAN. I changed the mobile BIOS option to resume on AC Power Restore. So yeah, you set it to AC Power Restore, but if you have another problem, so for example, on the RX 6000 series, what's going on is I have an ASRock H110 motherboard. And that motherboard, for whatever reason, is defaulting back to CSM being turned on. None of my other ASRock H110s do this. I do not know why it's doing this. All the rest of the BIOS settings remain the same. So above 4G, the defaults, whatever it is, anything I've changed, AC on power loss. What ends up being the problem is if you have more than 6 GPUs plugged into an ASRock H110 Pro BTC motherboard, you have to disable CSM. Otherwise, it won't recognize all the cards. In fact, it just won't even boot because it sits there trying to process all the PCI devices and it won't let it boot. Gabe says, ask Tech, if you just keep your ETH overclocks the same, would dual mining produce anything? Yes, it will always produce a little bit. I think that's going to call it for today. Unless you guys got a couple more questions. My voice is getting tired. I want to thank everybody for 400 concurrent viewers on a Tuesday in the bear market. Hell yeah. Stay loose. Keep loose. Loose butthole. I don't know. There we go. Keep tight butthole. That you want a tight butthole. That's, what was that? Workaholics? Workaholics. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like, comment, subscribe, and notification bell down below. I don't know if I'll have a talking head video tonight or I will be doing, I know back here I had already been working on a guide video, but I don't know if we're going to do it. See you next Tuesday. You got all the butthole comments are getting flagged. All right, I'll see you guys later. There you go. A quick survey before we get going. Oh, did you guys not even get your vote in?